Dr. Eliza Roth stared at the equation scrawled across her office whiteboard, her eyes bleary from lack of sleep. At 32, she was the youngest quantum physicist ever to lead a research team at the prestigious Callahan Institute. But for the past year, her work had hit a frustrating plateau. She was on the verge of a breakthrough in quantum entanglement, a phenomenon Einstein had famously called spooky action at a distance. If she could crack this puzzle, it could revolutionize everything from computing to telecommunications, but the solution remained maddeningly out of reach. Sighing, Eliza grabbed her coat and headed out of the institute. It was nearly midnight, and the streets of New Cambridge were quiet. As she walked, letting the cool night air clear her head, a neon sign caught her eye. "The Quantum Café," it read, the letters flickering in and out of existence in a way that seemed to defy physics. Intrigued and amused by the name, Eliza decided to check it out. As she pushed open the door, she felt a strange tingling sensation, as if she were passing through an electromagnetic field. The interior of the cafe was unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls seemed to shift and change color depending on the angle she viewed them from. Patrons sat at tables that appeared to be floating a few inches off the ground. And behind the counter stood a barista who seemed to be in two places at once. "Welcome to the Quantum Café," said the baristas, speaking in perfect unison. "What can I get for you?" Eliza blinked, wondering if she had finally cracked under the pressure of her research. Just a coffee, I guess." The baristas smiled. "Excellent choice. Please have a seat. Your coffee will find you." Still dazed, Eliza made her way to an empty table. As soon as she sat down, a steaming cup of coffee appeared before her. She cautiously took a sip, finding it to be the most perfect coffee she had ever tasted. "First time here?" came a voice from her left. Eliza turned to see an elderly man with wild white hair and kind eyes peering at her over a pair of round spectacles. "Is it that obvious?" Eliza asked, managing a small smile. The man chuckled. "We were all new once. I'm Dr. Marcus Finch, by the way." Eliza's eyes widened in recognition. "The Dr. Finch? The pioneer of quantum field theory?" "The very same," he replied with a wink. "Though these days I prefer to be known as a regular at the Quantum Café." "And you are?" "Dr. Eliza Roth," she said, still in awe. I've read all your papers. Your work on quantum entanglement was what inspired me to pursue physics in the first place." Dr. Finch's eyes twinkled. "Ah, entanglement. A fascinating field. Are you working on anything interesting in that area?" Eliza hesitated for a moment before deciding to confide in the legendary physicist. She explained her current research and the roadblock she had hit. As she spoke, Dr. Finch listened intently, occasionally nodding or asking a probing question. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "You know, my dear, sometimes the answers we seek are right in front of us. We just need to look at them from a different angle." He gestured around the cafe. "Take this place, for example. It exists in a state of quantum superposition, occupying multiple realities simultaneously. Your coffee cup, for instance." Eliza looked down at her cup, which was now somehow both full and empty at the same time. "How is this possible?" she gasped. Dr. Finch smiled enigmatically. "The Quantum Café operates on principles that most of the scientific community isn't ready to accept yet, but for those of us who can see it, it offers a unique perspective on the nature of reality." As they continued to talk, Eliza found her mind opening to new possibilities. Ideas and connections she had never considered before began to form. She grabbed a napkin and started scribbling equations, her hand barely able to keep up with her thoughts. Hours passed in what felt like minutes. When Eliza finally looked up from her calculations, she was surprised to see sunlight streaming through the cafe's windows. Dr. Finch was gone, but a note lay on the table where he had been sitting. "Keep exploring the impossibilities, Doctor. Roth, the universe has more surprises in store for you." Energized and full of new ideas, Eliza rushed back to her lab. Over the next few weeks, she threw herself into her work with renewed vigor. The equations she had scribbled in the Quantum Café turned out to be the key to unlocking the puzzle she had been struggling with for months. As her research progressed, Eliza found herself returning to the Quantum Café regularly. Each visit brought new insights and encounters with brilliant minds from across time and space. She met Niels Bohr discussing wave-particle duality with a young graduate student from the year 2150. She watched as Richard Feynman explained his path integral formulation using sugar packets and coffee stirrers. But it wasn't just physicists who frequented the cafe. Eliza found herself in conversations with philosophers, artists, and mystics, all of whom offered unique perspectives on the nature of reality. She began to see connections between quantum mechanics and fields she had never considered before: consciousness, spirituality, even the very fabric of existence itself. One evening, as Eliza sat pondering a particularly tricky problem, she was approached by a woman she had never seen before. The stranger had an otherworldly quality about her, with silver hair that seemed to float weightlessly and eyes that held the depth of galaxies. "Dr. Roth," the woman said, her voice resonating within strange harmonics. "I've been watching your progress with great interest." Eliza straightened in her chair, both excited and unnerved. "I'm sorry, have we met?" The woman smiled mysteriously. "Not in the conventional sense. My name is Arya, and I am what you might call a custodian of realities. The Quantum Café is one of my projects." Eliza's mind raced, trying to process this information. "Are you saying you created this place? How? Why?" Arya sat down, her movements fluid and graceful. "The universe is vast and full of wonders, Dr. Roth. The Quantum Café exists as a nexus point, a place where the boundaries between realities are thin. It allows minds like yours to tap into the collective knowledge of the multiverse." As Arya spoke, Eliza felt her understanding of reality shifting. The implications of what this being was saying were staggering. "But why me?" she asked. "Why have you allowed me to access this place?" "Because, Dr. Roth, your work has the potential to change everything," Arya replied. "The breakthroughs you are on the verge of making will open doors that have been closed for millennia, but with great knowledge comes great responsibility." Arya leaned forward, her eyes boring into Eliza's. "You stand at a crossroads, Dr. Roth. The path you choose from here will determine not just the future of your world, but countless others. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" Eliza felt the weight of Arya's words settle on her shoulders. She thought of all she had learned in the Quantum Café, of the incredible advancements her research could bring about. But she also thought of the potential dangers, of how this knowledge could be misused in the wrong hands. I don't know," Eliza admitted. "How can I be sure I'm making the right choices?" Arya's expression softened. "That uncertainty, that humility is precisely why you are the right person for this task. The future is not set, Dr. Roth. It is a tapestry of possibilities, and your actions will help weave its pattern." As they continued to talk, Arya revealed more about the nature of the Quantum Café and its purpose. It was a place of learning, of connection, but also of testing. Only those with the potential to handle the knowledge it offered were able to perceive its existence. "Your work on quantum entanglement is just the beginning," Arya explained. "It will lead to discoveries about the fundamental nature of consciousness, the interconnectedness of all things. Are you prepared to follow this path wherever it may lead?" Eliza took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision before her. "I am," she said finally. "I don't know if I'm ready, but I know this is too important to turn away from." Arya nodded, a look of approval in her ageless eyes. "Then let us begin." Over the next year, Eliza's life became a whirlwind of discovery and revelation. Her days were spent in the lab, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible in quantum physics. Her nights were often spent at the Quantum Café, learning from the greatest minds across time and space. As her understanding grew, so did her ability to perceive the subtle workings of the universe. She began to see the quantum fluctuations that underlay reality, the invisible connections that bound all things together. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Eliza's research progressed at an astonishing rate. She published paper after groundbreaking paper, each one pushing the field of quantum physics further than anyone had thought possible. The scientific community was both excited and skeptical, with heated debates erupting over the implications of her work. But as her professional success grew, Eliza found herself increasingly isolated in her personal life. How could she relate to ordinary people when she had glimpsed the workings of the multiverse? How could she engage in small talk when her mind was grappling with the nature of reality itself? One night, feeling particularly alone, Eliza found herself once again at the Quantum Café. As she nursed a coffee that was simultaneously hot and cold, a young man approached her table. "Excuse me, Doctor." "Roth?" he said hesitantly. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm a huge fan of your work. Your latest paper on quantum consciousness was absolutely mind-blowing." Eliza looked up, surprised to see someone she didn't recognize from her quantum adventures. "Oh, thank you," she replied, managing a smile. "I'm glad you found it interesting." The young man, who introduced himself as Alex, sat down and began to ask her questions about her research. To Eliza's surprise, she found herself enjoying the conversation. Alex's enthusiasm and genuine curiosity reminded her of why she had fallen in love with physics in the first place. As they talked, Eliza realized that this was the first normal human interaction she had had in months. It felt good, grounding. She had been so caught up in the grand mysteries of the universe that she had forgotten the simple joy of connecting with another person. Their conversation stretched late into the night. As the Quantum Café began to empty, Eliza felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Arya standing there, a knowing smile on her face. "It seems you've remembered something important, Doctor." "Roth?" Arya said softly. Eliza nodded, understanding dawning. "The greatest mysteries of the universe mean nothing if we lose touch with our humanity," she said. Arya's smile widened. "Precisely. The knowledge you've gained is important, but it's how you use it to impact the lives of others that truly matters." From that night on, Eliza strove to find a balance between her quantum explorations and her connections to the everyday world. She began to mentor young scientists, sharing her knowledge in ways that inspired rather than intimidated. She worked to translate her complex discoveries into technologies that could improve people's lives, and through it all, she continued to visit the Quantum Café, each time gaining new insights not just into the nature of reality, but into the human experience itself. Years passed, and Eliza's work revolutionized fields far beyond physics. Her discoveries led to advancements in clean energy, medical treatments, and even space exploration. The Quantum Café remained her sanctuary, a place where she could always find new challenges and fresh perspectives. One evening, as Eliza sat in her usual spot, she was surprised to see a familiar face enter the café. It was Alex, the young man she had met years ago. But now he moved with the confidence of an accomplished scientist, his eyes alight with the same wonder she had seen in him that first night. As Alex approached her table, Eliza felt a sense of déjà vu. "Dr. Roth," he said, smiling broadly. "I don't know if you remember me, but we met here years ago. Your work inspired me to pursue quantum physics, and, well, I think I've made a breakthrough of my own." Eliza listened as Alex excitedly explained his research, feeling a profound sense of joy and completion. She realized that this was the true purpose of knowledge, not to hoard it, but to pass it on, to inspire others to push the boundaries of what's possible. As they talked, Eliza caught sight of Arya watching from across the cafe. The custodian of realities gave her a nod of approval, and Eliza understood. Her journey had come full circle. She had learned the secrets of the universe, but more importantly, she had learned how to share them. The Quantum Café hummed with energy around them, a nexus of possibilities and potential. And as Eliza began to share her latest theories with Alex, she knew that the greatest adventures both in science and in life, were still to come. As their conversation deepened, Eliza found herself marveling at how far Alex had come. His theories built upon her work in ways she hadn't anticipated, opening up new avenues of exploration. It was a powerful reminder that scientific progress was a collaborative effort, each generation standing on the shoulders of those who came before. "You know, Alex," Eliza said, a hint of nostalgia in her voice, "when I first stumbled upon this cafe, I thought I was on the verge of losing my mind. Now, I can't imagine my life without it." Alex nodded enthusiastically. "I know exactly what you mean. The first time I saw the cafe shimmer into existence, I thought I was hallucinating from too much coffee and too little sleep, but it's changed everything for me." As they continued to discuss their respective research, Eliza noticed something strange happening around them. The other patrons of the Quantum Café seemed to be fading in and out of focus, like television stations losing signal. Even the ever-present barista was flickering more than usual. Concerned, Eliza looked around for Aria, but the enigmatic being was nowhere to be seen. Instead, she locked eyes with Dr. Finch, who was sitting at a nearby table. The elderly physicist gave her a grave nod before disappearing entirely. "Alex," Eliza said, trying to keep the alarm out of her voice, "I think something's wrong. We need to—" Before she could finish her sentence, the cafe lurched violently, as if the very fabric of reality was being torn apart. Eliza grabbed onto the table, her coffee cup shattering as it hit the floor, or rather, passed through the floor, which was now as insubstantial as mist. "What's happening?" Alex cried, his eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," Eliza admitted, "but we need to get out of here, now." They stumbled towards the exit, the world around them dissolving into chaos. The door seemed to stretch away from them, growing more distant with each step they took. Eliza could feel the quantum fluctuations intensifying, threatening to tear apart the delicate balance that allowed the Quantum Café to exist. Just as they reached the door, Aria materialized before them, her form flickering like a faulty hologram. "Dr. Roth," she said, her voice distorted and fragmented. "The cafe is collapsing. The boundaries between realities are breaking down." "How do we stop it?" Eliza demanded, her scientific mind already racing through possibilities. Aria shook her head, her expression grim. "You can't stop it, but you can contain it. The knowledge you've gained, the connections you've made, they can be used to create a new anchor point, a new nexus of realities." Eliza's mind reeled at the implications. "You mean, create a new Quantum Café?" "Yes," Aria confirmed. "But it will require great sacrifice. The process will erase all memory of this place from the minds of those who have visited it. Only you, as the anchor, will remember." Eliza felt her heart sink. All the knowledge she had gained, all the incredible encounters she had experienced, gone. And Alex, the brilliant young scientist she had just reconnected with, would forget everything. But as she looked around at the disintegrating cafe, at the panicked faces of the other patrons, she knew what she had to do. This place had given her so much. Now it was her turn to give back. "I'll do it," Eliza said firmly. "Tell me what I need to do." Aria nodded, relief evident in her ancient eyes. "Focus on the core principles of quantum entanglement. Use your understanding of the interconnectedness of all things to weave a new tapestry of reality. The cafe will reshape itself around your consciousness." Eliza closed her eyes, drawing upon everything she had learned. She thought of superposition, of particles existing in multiple states simultaneously. She thought of entanglement, of connections that transcended time and space. She focused on the very fabric of reality, visualizing the quantum foam that underlies all of existence. As she concentrated, Eliza felt a surge of energy coursing through her body. The chaos around her seemed to slow, the disintegrating cafe freezing in mid-collapse. In her mind's eye, she saw strands of possibility weaving together, forming new connections and pathways. As Alex began to explain his research, Eliza felt a surge of pride. Even without his memories of their previous encounters, He had continued to push the boundaries of quantum physics. She listened intently, offering subtle guidance and asking probing questions that helped Alex see his work from new angles. By the end of their conversation, Alex's eyes were shining with excitement. "I think I see a way forward now," he said. "Thank you so much for your help, Dr. Roth," Eliza supplied. "Doctor?" Eliza Roth. Alex's eyes widened in recognition. "The doctor? Roth? Your work on quantum entanglement was what inspired me to pursue this field in the first place." Eliza felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I'm glad I could help. Remember, Alex, the greatest discoveries often come from collaboration and open exchange of ideas. Don't be afraid to reach out to others in your field." As Alex left the cafe, energized and full of new ideas, Eliza turned to find Arya standing beside her. The being's form seemed to shift and change, sometimes appearing as the silver-haired woman Eliza had first met, other times as something far less human. "You're adapting well to your new role," Arya observed. "But remember, the cafe is not just a place for scientific discovery. It's a nexus of all forms of human understanding." As if on cue, the door opened again, this time admitting a young artist clutching a sketchbook. She looked around in wonder, her eyes drinking in the swirling patterns on the walls and the impossible geometries of the cafe's interior. Eliza approached her with a smile. "Welcome to the Quantum Café. What brings you here today?" The artist, who introduced herself as Maya, explained that she had been struggling to find inspiration for her latest project. "I want to capture the interconnectedness of all things," she said, "but I can't quite visualize it." Eliza led Maya to a table and began to explain some of the basic principles of quantum entanglement, using language that the artist could understand. As she spoke, she saw Maya's eyes light up with understanding and inspiration. Over the next few hours, Maya filled her sketchbook with incredible drawings that seemed to capture the very essence of quantum reality. Eliza watched in amazement as scientific concepts she had struggled to explain in academic papers came to life in Maya's art. As the days turned into weeks and months, the Quantum Café became a hub of interdisciplinary collaboration. Scientists and artists, philosophers and engineers, all found their way to its doors, each contributing to a growing tapestry of understanding. Eliza found herself learning as much from the cafe's visitors as they learned from her. She began to see connections between fields she had never considered before, her own understanding of the universe expanding in ways she hadn't thought possible. One evening, as she was closing up the cafe, Eliza felt a familiar presence behind her. She turned to see Arya, looking more solid and real than ever before. "You've done well, Eliza," Arya said, genuine warmth in her voice. "The cafe has become more than I ever imagined it could be." Eliza smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment wash over her. "It's been an incredible journey, but I have to ask, Arya, why me? Why was I chosen for this?" Arya's form shimmered, her appearance shifting through various iterations before settling on a form that looked remarkably human. She smiled at Eliza, her eyes twinkling with ancient wisdom. "Why you, Eliza? Because you possess a rare combination of brilliant scientific mind and deep empathy. You understand that knowledge without compassion is meaningless. You see the beauty in the equations that govern our universe, but you also see the beauty in a child's laughter or a sunset." Eliza felt a warmth spread through her at Arya's words. "But surely there are others who could have done this job." Arya nodded. "Perhaps. But you were the one who found us, who was open to the impossible. And more importantly, you were the one willing to sacrifice everything you knew to save this nexus of realities." As they talked, Eliza realized that the Quantum Café had become more than just a job or a responsibility. It had become her life's work, a way to bridge the gap between the cosmic and the human. "There's something else you should know," Arya said, her expression growing serious. "The cafe exists in a delicate balance. As more people discover it, as more knowledge flows through it, the strain on reality increases. One day, perhaps sooner than we'd like, it may become unstable again." Eliza felt a chill run down her spine. What happens then? Will we have to rebuild it again? Arya shook her head. Not necessarily, but it will require a decision from you, a choice that will determine the future of not just the cafe, but potentially all of reality. Before Eliza could ask for more details, the cafe door swung open. A group of excited students poured in, chattering about a lecture they'd just attended on string theory. Arya disappeared, leaving Eliza to greet the newcomers. As she guided the students to a table, explaining how the cafe's unique properties could help them visualize complex mathematical concepts, Eliza's mind was racing. What kind of choice would she have to make, and how would she know when the time came? Months passed, and the Quantum Café continued to thrive. Eliza watched with pride as collaborations formed within its walls, led to breakthroughs in various fields. A climatologist and a quantum physicist developed a new model for predicting weather patterns. An artist and a neuroscientist created a revolutionary form of therapy using virtual reality. But as the cafe's influence grew, Eliza began to notice subtle changes. The boundaries between realities seemed to blur more frequently. Sometimes, patrons would report seeing glimpses of other versions of themselves, or of worlds vastly different from their own. One day, as Eliza was deep in conversation with a philosopher about the nature of consciousness, she felt a sudden shift in the cafe's energy. The air seemed to thicken, and the walls began to pulse with an eerie light. Arya appeared beside her, her form flickering rapidly between different states. "It's time, Eliza," she said, her voice echoing strangely. "The choice must be made now." The other patrons in the cafe froze in place, caught in a moment between moments. Eliza felt the weight of countless realities pressing in on her. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "The cafe has grown too powerful," Arya explained. "It's become a nexus point for too many realities. If we don't act now, it could tear the fabric of existence apart." Eliza's mind reeled. What can we do? How do we stop it? Arya's form stabilized, taking on the appearance of the silver-haired woman Eliza had first met. There are two options. The first is to close the cafe permanently, sealing off this nexus point and returning everyone to their original realities. All the knowledge gained, all the connections made, would be lost. Eliza felt her heart sink at the thought. And the second option? The second option is to expand the cafe, to allow it to grow beyond this single point in space and time. It would become a network, connecting minds across all of reality. But this would irrevocably change the nature of existence as we know it. The boundaries between realities would become permanently blurred. Eliza closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her. On one hand, closing the cafe would mean losing all the incredible progress that had been made, all the friendships and collaborations formed. But expanding it could have unforeseen consequences for all of reality. She thought of Alex, of Maya, of all the brilliant minds she had encountered in the cafe. She thought of the breakthroughs that had been made, the lives that had been changed. And she thought of the infinite possibilities that lay in the unexplored realms of reality. Taking a deep breath, Eliza opened her eyes and looked at Arya. "I choose to expand the cafe," she said, her voice steady and sure. "Knowledge should be shared, not hidden away. And if we're careful, if we guide this expansion with wisdom and compassion, we can create something beautiful." Arya nodded, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "I had a feeling you would say that. Are you ready to begin?" Eliza nodded, feeling a surge of energy coursing through her. She closed her eyes and focused her mind, just as she had done when rebuilding the cafe. But this time, instead of containing the energy, she let it flow outward, expanding in all directions. She felt the cafe growing, stretching across time and space. She saw connections forming between minds galaxies apart, ideas flowing freely across the boundaries of reality. It was beautiful and terrifying, exhilarating and humbling all at once. Arya stood beside her, her form now a swirling vortex of energy and possibility. "You've done it, Eliza," she said, her voice resonating with the hum of the universe. "The Quantum Café is now a part of all reality, and all reality is a part of it." Eliza looked around in awe, trying to comprehend the magnitude of what she had done. "What happens now?" she asked. Arya's form solidified slightly, taking on a more human appearance. "Now we guide, we teach, we help minds across all of reality to understand and use this new connection responsibly." As if on cue, a group of beings appeared before them. Some looked human, others were wildly alien, and still others defied description entirely. All looked confused and amazed. Eliza took a deep breath, steeling herself for the task ahead. She stepped forward, a warm smile on her face. "Welcome to the Quantum Café," she said. "Let me show you around." And so began a new chapter in the history of existence. The Quantum Café became a beacon of knowledge and understanding across all realities. Eliza, with Arya's guidance, became a teacher to minds beyond imagination, helping to shape the course of countless civilizations. There were challenges, of course. Some feared the blurring of realities. Others sought to exploit the cafe's power for their own gain. But for every problem that arose, there were brilliant minds from across the multiverse ready to find a solution. Years passed, or perhaps millennia. Time had little meaning in the expanded cafe. Eliza found herself changing, growing beyond her human limitations. She became something more, a being of pure thought and energy, capable of traversing the vast network of the cafe at will. And through it all, at the heart of the Quantum Café, there remained a small, cozy corner that looked just like the original cafe where Eliza had first stumbled in on that fateful night. It was here that she would often retreat, to remind herself of where it all began, and to greet new visitors taking their first steps into the infinite possibilities of the multiverse. As she sat in this familiar corner, sipping a coffee that was simultaneously every possible temperature, Eliza reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From a frustrated physicist to the guardian of all knowledge across reality, it had been quite a ride. She smiled to herself, excited for whatever new adventures the ever-expanding Quantum Café would bring. After all, in a multiverse of infinite possibilities, the learning never truly ends.